Welcome to Fortress of Faith with Tom Wallace, calling North America to repentance and revival.
Welcome back to the Corner of Truth and Courage. You're listening to Fortress of Faith. This is Tom Wallace. Well, we have about 9 days before the election of 2024. We've only been talking about this election for 2 years or more, it seems. Man, I tell you, politics and elections in America are so long running. I hate it at times, but we're coming near to the end of a battle between two big decisions in America. And I want to encourage our listeners, if you have not voted, please make sure you do. There is a mentality out there that I don't understand that thinks that A, their vote doesn't count. B, what good does it do? You know, it's like if I do vote, it's not going to matter. Well, it does, and it will matter. So many Christians, I'm told, in the last presidential election, and I've known of these stats for at least 3 series of elections there when I was first brought into the news of this, and it hasn't changed much, sadly, that usually in every church, only half of the people are registered to vote. So that means only half can actually get out and vote in the average church of America. And then when it actually comes time to cast a vote, only half of those who are registered bother to do so. That means about 3/4 of Christians stay home. They don't get involved. They don't vote. They don't take a stand either way. And that's a great shame, because if we would change that attitude and realize, my goodness, we've got the ability. If only 1/4 of Christians, church-attending Christians, are actually voting in the election, what if we had full participation? If we did, we could control every election in these United States every time. I imagine these stats aren't much different up in Canada. I don't know why it is people think that their vote's not going to count. I'll tell you where this is coming from. It's not coming from words of wisdom. It's coming from the enemy that wants to keep you from voting. They want the evil that's in this world to win. Edmund Burke said it so well. All that's necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Just stay home. Just don't vote. Just think it's not going to matter. Just think that your vote won't matter. It won't change anything. Go ahead believing that. Go ahead following that mentality. And then you will be the good man who does nothing. And evil will prevail. Get out, please, and vote. Some of your states say, well, I may not be registered to vote. Many states allow you to register. Your vote may be kept to the side for a bit just to make sure that you do qualify. But you can usually register in most states the same time that you want to go out and vote. Your vote would be considered a provisional vote. And if the numbers are close in your state for a particular candidate, then your vote actually might be considered, even though you registered late. But get registered if you haven't done so already. Now, I want to share some news with you. I shared this with our meeting up in British Columbia. We had a mini conference, had a great time with our listeners. Thank you for coming. I didn't realize when I was setting these dates that it happened to be for British Columbia's election day. And so that affected our attendance, and the weather was just dreadful. Sorry, British Columbia, but it was dreadful. And it kept a lot of people away, I think. But nevertheless, we had a good turnout. I was happy for those that came. And I want to share with our listening audience now what I got to share with our people in the conference. I was letting them be the first to hear this news. Fortress of Faith has been given a wonderful invitation to join Wilkins Radio Network. This will be a huge growth for our radio outreach if we can raise the money that's necessary to do it. Now, normally at this time of the year, we try to raise around $20,000 from our listeners there to reach our budget. And we were fortunate to have received a very generous donation from the estate of one of our listeners. Someone passed away, and they kindly remembered us in their will. That was a blessing to us there. And so we were able to apply that to our budget. So that means that it gives me an opportunity to try to advance our radio ministry. And we need to raise $24,000 to get onto this network. And now that's a sizable amount of money. But let me, it's like eating an elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? I'm going to give you some bite-sized ways that we can do this. And it's exciting because we're already moving down the road on this. We're trying to raise $12,000 in one-time donations here in the next couple of weeks. $12,000. And so far, we've received 4,300 come in. So we're asking, therefore, to still reach this goal of 7,700. So half of our goal we're trying to reach, the 24,000, half of we're trying to reach through a one-time donation over the next 2 weeks. And the other way, the other 12,000 is all we need is 10 people, just 12 total, but we already have 2 others that have already jumped in on this. All we need is 10 people who will commit to supporting us from their bank card, call in and say, hey, here it is. And I will support at $83.33 a month, just for the next 12 months and 12 months only. And if we can have 10 more people, 10 of our listeners that would call us and say, listen, I can do that. God has blessed me to be able to do that. And I'll sacrifice to give that $83.33. If you'll do that, if we get 10 more people there, then that will raise the other $12,000 that we need to get on board with Wilkins Radio. This will take Fortress of Faith into major cities like Philadelphia, Kansas City, Indianapolis, and scores of other stations. We're talking about a minimum listenership of over 13 million people. And this is going to be a big development, and they've offered us such a tremendous rate, folks. If you knew what radio cost, you would know, wow, this is a grand opportunity. So would you join us and help us to do that? Here's the number to call. And we need to hear from you after this broadcast, please. And the number is 800-616-0082. Again, that's 800-616-0082. Of course, you can always give securely online at our website, fortressoffaith.com, fortressoffaith.com, or send me an email, and we'll get back with you there to set up your donation. All right. I want to share with you in the remaining minutes that we've got left here is to what also that I shared with the with our group there in the conference of what's going on in the Middle East. There has been a monumental shift going on in the Middle East. And we saw the big event of October 7th, right? I was in Turkey. I was in Istanbul. My wife and I, we were in Istanbul. We were getting ready to fly over to Armenia, just right on the border with Iran. And so we were over in the Middle East when the war broke out. And the big thing was this: all the hostages that Hamas had taken was going to guarantee one thing, and it would guarantee that Israel would have to do a land invasion into Gaza. Now, that should have triggered the whole Middle East to go to war with Israel. The Arabs would have undoubtedly attacked Israel if Israel went into Gaza. That was the trip line. That was, the obvious thing that would happen. And Israel had to go in after their hostages. They couldn't just, sit back on that line fearing the consequences. No, their people were taken, so they had to go get them. But the interesting thing is the Arabs stayed home. Now, I don't know if you realize that. That was, in the words of former President Trump, huge. I mean, that really was huge. But there's something else that's developing that's been going on for some time. And I don't have the time in the broadcast to really break all of this down here for you. But here's the thing. Why did they stay home? Because of MBS. We've talked about him in the past. Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. Now, he has been, I've been starting reading and getting articles on this back in 2020, that he's been wanting to normalize relationships with Israel. He wants peace with Israel. He wants to sign the Abraham Accords that President Trump had created as a peace initiative for the region. The Arab countries that have signed it already, their economy has rocketed north, and they are booming without oil. And that's exactly what Saudi Arabia needs. Their golden goose is going to run out. They know it. Oil is limited. And one day their golden goose is going to dry up, and they need to reform themselves and turn to some other economic prosperity. And finally, they have a leader that has been making the right changes for their nation, and that is the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. And they have amazing things that they're accomplishing already in the nation in his leadership the last 14 years. But one of the biggest things, get this, one of the biggest things, because he wants the world to come live and play in his sandbox, to work and to live and all that stuff. But the one thing that is preventing the world to come and really make Saudi Arabia a trading partner and a home for their companies and businesses is their strict form of Islam. So he's been reforming it for quite some time. There's been many articles on this. He has fired over 3,500 clerics and replaced them with moderates. He is doing away with the religious police, and they are starting to act like the rest of the world. They're bringing sports teams and all sorts of things into there, and industry. And the biggest thing he's got to do to reform his nation, he's got to allow other religions to come into his country. And that is the big news. He is talking about allowing, for the first time, Christianity to come into Saudi Arabia. He's already met with some key religious leaders from America, evangelicals, about bringing in churches to his country. This is a huge development. We need to start praying. The Lord of the Harvest said he'll start calling missionaries, church planters, to go into Saudi Arabia and to prepare the way of the gospel into a land that has been absent of the gospel message for over 1,400 years. Now remember, you heard this first here at Fortress of Faith, and we're going to keep you informed on this. I'm planning on a trip to get over there and to look at the possibilities of Christian missions coming to Saudi Arabia. Well, folks, that's going to be it for today. I hope you'll plan to join us again tomorrow at the Corner of Truth and Courage. God bless you.